This is a microchipping party. Hannah's getting an electronic chip implanted into her hand. She believes one day we'll all be chipped like her.
So congratulations, Hannah.
Thank you.
You've been chipped?
Yes, I have.
How does it feel?
It feels good. I'm excited to see what I'll be able to do now.
Can I touch it?
Yeah, you can feel it there. I feel like this is the future. It's the next big thing that's going to happen.
As more and more businesses begin to open their doors across the UK, shopkeepers are increasingly looking for ways to ensure the chances of COVID-19 spreading are kept to a minimum. One measure being widely employed is banning the use of cash, instead asking customers to reach for their debit or credit card.
Then when I go to the newsagents to buy some water and peppermints, I'm told I have to pay by card. We're going to Till's favorite bakery, which has everything, apart from a cash till. What shall we buy?
I'd recommend Bula. They're good here.
What are they?
They're cinnamon buns made with cardamom. I can really recommend them.
Vi har 3 av dem tror jag. Kardemumma och bulle.
Lucas puts our pastries in a box, and I get out my card to pay, because he hasn't got a cash till. Lucas is surprised at my surprise.
You use cash in Germany? Yes, we use cash in Germany still.
Cash
Mainly
is
cash,
king.
yeah.
But in a socially distant world where payment is as easy as... Does cash still hold the same value?
Cash is still relevant, but cash is no longer king.
This is an Omega Watchman Media Group production.
Due to the mature nature of this content, language, and depth, viewer discretion is advised.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads.
This is a microchipping party. Hannah's getting an electronic chip implanted into her hand. She believes one day we'll all be chipped like her. For this teenager, microchips, it seems, are in her DNA.
She is my daughter and I'm the father.
So you're a microchip family?
We will become one now today.
Magnus and his daughter Felicia have come here together tonight because they believe this is the future.
You're going to have an upgraded dad?
Yeah.
As they say, it was good being a human, but being a cyborg is better. Didn't feel a thing.
It's a quick, simple procedure with potentially huge significance.
So you're officially part machine. How does it feel?
This is awesome. How cool is that? Good job.
Do you think in a few years' time, in a decade perhaps, we'll all have things like this?
Yes, of course. I really do think.
Hannes has made it his mission to convince more of us to get microchipped. He's what's known as a biohacker, someone who wants to improve their body with technology.
What's wrong with just having contactless payment cards? We've all got phones, we've all got a set of keys. What's the point?
The point is to reduce the hassle of exactly these things.
Isn't that just the ultimate laziness?
No, it's convenience. And convenience is a pretty powerful force. I mean, in the morning, every morning, when you stand there going out your front door, you check your purse or your pockets. Okay, do I have my wallet, my charger, my keys, my phone, all my stuff? What if you could reduce that by half?
What do you always carry with you? Your smartphone, keys, and some cash? Or keys, smartphone, and credit card? Germans are increasingly split on this one. Cash was long king here, but more and more people are switching to credit and debit cards, in part due to the coronavirus crisis.
No. By card. Contactless. By card.
I'm someone who prefers cash because it gives me a better idea of how much I'm spending. But COVID-19 has changed that. Now I pay with plastic.
You have to ask yourself, why do people want to abolish cash?
Some banks have turned their backs on cash completely. They don't have any brick-and-mortar branches or ATMs.
Cashless payments are on the rise.
But experts warn we're paying with our data.
Visa,
MasterCard or Axiom, Google, Facebook, Twitter interfaces, that's surveillance capitalism.
Cash is competing with electronic payment systems. Could it get knocked out of the ring? A former head of Interpol says it would be risky to abolish cash completely.
What happens if Russians, Putin or somebody else switches off the system? We have no defense.
The coronavirus pandemic has boosted cashless payments. Who's profiting? And what price are we paying?
Cash is king. But in a socially distant world where payment is as easy as... Does cash still hold the same value?
Cash is still relevant, but cash is no longer king. Although people in this country and around the world do continue to use cash to purchase things every day, that is decreasing.
Electronic payments have cannibalized checks. Card payments have grown, but cash has remained king. 2/3 of transactions under $10 are done in cash.
Although data surrounding COVID's impact on cash has yet to be reported, the pandemic is expected to cause a drastic decline in cash usage due to the risk of contamination. The unprecedented surge in the demand for contactless payment has also shown outstanding performances for major companies offering cashless payment methods like Apple, Square, and PayPal.
You're seeing digital payments in this crisis move from being a nice-to-have capability to a must-have essential service.
Whether it is credit or debit or prepaid cards or peer-to-peer services like PayPal or Venmo or others, we're seeing a corresponding increase in digital transactions as we're seeing a decrease in the use of cash.
So could COVID signal the end of cash in the United States? And can the U.S. really function without physical currency? Nearly a third of U.S. adults say they make no purchases using cash during a typical week. The share of people who say that all or almost all of their weekly purchases are made by cash dropped from 24% in 2015 to 18% in 2018. In 2019, the Federal Reserve found that most cashless methods of transactions, including debit cards and mobile payments, increased in the past 2 years compared to cash and check payments, which showed a decrease in the same time period.
I never carry around cash. So I use Apple Pay at the bodegas, for example, when I'm getting groceries for most of my purchases. I don't use that necessarily for like electricity bills, for dinner bills. That's when I would use Venmo or Cash App.
Despite the rise in electronic methods of payment, experts say that cash isn't a force to be reckoned with.
There's a false narrative that Americans are using cash less now than ever before. In point of fact, cash in circulation continues to grow strongly. What you've seen happen are electronic forms of payment taking other electronic forms of payment or checks out of the system. Cash transactions are still dominant.
Cash is the second most used form of payment in America today after debit cards. Millennials are the ones leading the charge toward a cashless future. A report from Experian in 2019 revealed that 1 in 10 millennials use their digital wallet for every purchase, especially on food, rent, and ride shares. Pew Research also found that about 34% of adults under the age of 50 make no purchases in a typical week using cash, compared with 23% of those ages 50 and older.
I'm an older millennial, so my friends who are not millennials tend to carry that cash around versus my younger friends who tend to use more of the apps. And even if they did carry cash, I've seen less of that these days as people start to use Cash App, Venmo, Splitwise. It just makes everything easy.
as digital natives grow up and become consumers in their own right and engage in commerce, they're very comfortable with not only digital means of engaging generally, but particularly comfortable with engaging in commerce digitally.
Many businesses around the U.S. have also been adapting to the higher demand for cashless transactions. Major companies like Amazon, Walmart, Starbucks, and Sweetgreen have experimented with cashless stores in past years.
Part of the reason big companies are going cashless is to get out of paying expensive swipe fees. Let's take Starbucks, for example, whose app was the most used online form of payment for years, bigger than Apple Pay for many years. A lot of people mistakenly think the Starbucks app is about building loyalty or getting float or interest. Starbucks has over $1 billion sitting in their app. Yeah, that float on your $50 is nice, but it's a few pennies or tenths thereof and pales in comparison to their savings on swipe fee. These companies are looking for alternatives to getting out of the swipe fee carousel, and they're experimenting with their own digital payment system or building their own ecosystem and wallets to try and encourage customers to pay using a different mechanism.
The COVID pandemic has also played a major role in the decrease of cash usage, as banknotes propose a potential hygiene issue when handled. In June, the Federal Reserve reported that the central bank was experiencing a coin shortage after the pandemic effectively stopped the flow of physical currency.
I definitely don't like using cash because of the germs aspect. And not that I was using cash that much before, but I find that during COVID especially, I just don't want to use cash as much for this reason.
People found that they didn't want to touch cash and exchange cash. And so over the past 6 to 8 months, we've seen the use of cash decline even further.
And so I think we're at a tipping point in e-commerce. I think we've accelerated where we were going to be maybe 3 to 5 years, and in months have jumped ahead, and I don't think there's any turning back
As
from
more
that.
and more businesses begin to open their doors across the UK, shopkeepers are increasingly looking for ways to ensure the chances of COVID-19 spreading are kept to a minimum. One measure being widely employed is banning the use of cash, instead asking customers to reach for their debit or credit card. Like many businesses across London, Cafe Donata has ditched handling money for the foreseeable future.
We know it's very important for customers and staff to feel safe. So one of the first things that we did is to say we're going to go cashless. It all has to be paid by card. And because our value of our product, each transaction value is normally between £5 to £10 on average, cash contains so many germs. When you're touching cash, it's a known fact that notes and coins and they carry a lot of germs. So it makes it a lot easier. It reduces the contact between staff and customers.
But while cashless shops are becoming more of a common sight across the high street, just how popular is paying with plastic among customers?
I think it's a little bit of overreaction, as they say in America, but, well, they're trying to protect themselves, like, you know what I mean? So that if they think that's the way to do it, then so be it, you know?
I prefer to pay by card, and it hasn't changed my practice. I think it will be a permanent policy now for the businesses, and I think it's a good thing.
It shouldn't be that discrimination. If someone needs to pay by cash, they should be able to pay by cash. Let's, for argument's sake, if they're maybe got autistic, they've got a pattern, cash is part of that pattern. So, yeah, you've got to give that option for both.
With more retail stores expected to open across England on June 15th, the use of card will likely remain key in helping to reduce the risk of infection inside shops and stores.
A change in many people's spending habits for the sheer fact that we are sitting at home, not perhaps buying as much coffee or food at lunchtime, what have you. Let's get some ideas in terms of what might stay the same and what might change in 2021. For that, Bruce Sellery is joining us. He's the personal finance expert and also the author of Moo La La. Bruce, great to be with you today. When we think about all the changes, perhaps, let's think about the future too. How will people spend in the future given what we're doing today?
The number one thing is the digital revolution. It is here. I mean, we've been talking about it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. It's here. And the technology was already well on its way. It was the consumer that hadn't really converted into this view that their financial life was really going to be entirely digital. We've had to, because we can't go to the branch because the branch is closed. So the consumer is here. The technology is ready, in particular on artificial intelligence. So TD said that it has ramped up its digital product offering by 2 years. Like they pulled it forward by 2 years. That is huge. And the power of this predictive technology is kind of mind-boggling. Like they can see when your balances will be low. They can see when you're not saving enough for retirement. And they're going to provide these nudges to alter your behavior.